Welcome to The Explainer. Have you ever just sat back and wondered what really makes people tick? Why do they do the things they do? Well, today we're diving into Robert Greene's absolute masterwork, The Laws of Human Nature, to try and uncover that hidden code that pretty much governs all of our interactions.
So let's just jump right in with a tough question. One I had to seriously ask myself, and I think you should too. Are your emotions in the driver's seat? Because this book makes a pretty compelling case that for almost all of us, most of the time, the answer is a big, fat yes. And Greene's whole argument is that to truly get a handle on other people, our journey has to start inward, with ourselves. So that's exactly where we're going to begin.
All right, our first section, Mastering Your Inner World. This is all about confronting our own irrationality and what's called the shadow. And believe me, this part is the foundation. If you don't get this right, everything else is it's just built on sand.
This quote right here really gets to the heart of the problem. It says, emotions are continually affecting our thought processes and decisions below the level of our awareness. Think about that. It's not something that happens once in a while. It's a constant, invisible current, always pulling at us, influencing our choices without us even realizing it. It's why we make bad decisions or misjudge people, and then later wonder, what was I thinking?
So to fight back against this current, Greene tells us we have to build what he calls the rational self. And the key word on the screen there is cultivate. This isn't our factory default setting, okay? It's the part of our mind that we have to consciously and intentionally build up so that we can think instead of just reacting. It's a mental muscle that you have to train day in and day out.
So how do we actually build that muscle? Well, the book gives us 3 incredibly practical steps. Number 1, know yourself thoroughly. This means being brutally honest about what pushes your buttons, what your deep-seated biases are. Like confirmation bias, where we only listen to things that prove we're already right. Number 2, increase your reaction time. This one is a total game changer. It's about creating that little tiny pause, that space between a feeling hitting you and you responding to it. In that space, that's where your power is. And number 3, examine your emotions. Instead of getting carried away, ask yourself, hold on, where is this feeling really coming from? The point isn't to become some emotionless robot. Not at all. It's about understanding your emotions so they don't get to hijack your logic.
But mastering your inner world isn't just about logic. It also means confronting those parts of ourselves that we'd really rather just ignore. Greene writes, lurking beneath their polite, affable exterior is inevitably a dark shadow side. He's talking about all the things we don't like about ourselves, our envy, our insecurities, our selfishness, all the stuff we try to push down and pretend isn't there.
And let's be real, we all have this shadow. The danger is pretending we don't. So the first step is to recognize the signs. Ever had an emotional outburst that was just way, way out of proportion to the situation? Or caught yourself being a massive hypocrite? That's your shadow peeking out. And instead of shoving it back in the closet, Greene says we have to embrace it. Accept that, yep, these traits are part of who you are. And here's the amazing part. Once you do that, you can explore its potential. That repressed anger might actually be the key to becoming more assertive. That deep insecurity could become the fuel for incredible self-improvement. This is how you become a whole, authentic person, not just the polished version you show to the world. Okay, so once we've done some of that hard work looking in the mirror, we can finally turn our attention outwards. And that brings us to our second section, seeing through the mask. This is all about decoding what people don't say.
I mean, we all do this. Greene puts it perfectly. People tend to wear the mask that shows them off in the best possible light. Humble, confident, diligent. We put on a performance. We craft an image to fit in, to be liked, to get ahead. The critical skill is to never, ever take these masks at face value.
And this chart just lays it out so clearly, the performance versus the reality. That person projecting humility, underneath, they could be battling crippling insecurities. The one who seems so confident, it might just be a front to hide some really deep-seated fears. You see someone who looks so diligent, like the perfect employee, but their real motive might be pure selfish ambition. Or my favorite, the super agreeable person who is just so nice all the time. They could actually be seething with repressed aggression. The real story, the truth, is rarely in the words people say. It leaks out in the nonverbal cues they can't control. That tiny flicker of resentment in their eyes, the tension in their voice, their posture. That's where the truth is.
Now, seeing past the mask leads us to an even deeper, more crucial skill, accurately judging someone's character. This is about learning to separate the solid, strong people from the toxic ones. This line from the book is one of the most powerful things I've ever read. Character is destiny. See, character isn't just personality. It's not about being funny or charming. It's the deep-rooted collection of habits and patterns that forces a person to act in a certain way, over and over again, especially when they're under pressure. If you can understand someone's character, it's the closest you'll ever get to having a crystal ball to predict their future actions. So, what are we looking for? Strong character shows itself in how people deal with life. Do they handle adversity with resilience? Do they actually learn from their mistakes or just repeat them? Do they show patience and integrity when they think no one is watching? On the flip side, you have to be on high alert for the toxic types. Watch out for the hyper-perfectionist who uses constant criticism to control you, or the relentless rebel who fights authority not for any principle but just for the sake of fighting. And then there's the personalizer, the person who thinks every single thing is a direct personal attack on them. Recognizing these patterns early can save you from so much trouble down the road. Once we can read people accurately, then we can learn how to influence them effectively. And that brings us to the art of social influence. Now, this isn't about manipulation. It's about understanding and lowering that natural defensiveness that every single one of us has. To influence anyone, you have to start with this fundamental truth. People are naturally defensive and protective of their ego. Life is hard, and our default setting is to protect our own interests and our own self-opinion. If you try to just push against that wall with facts and logic, what happens? They just push back harder. That wall gets thicker. So instead of pushing, we soften. How? First, you have to become a deep listener. Stop thinking about your brilliant comeback and just focus completely on understanding their point of view. Second, you allay their insecurities. You make them feel safe, like they're not being judged. And third, this is the real secret sauce. You confirm their self-opinion. People desperately want to believe that they're smart, they're independent, and that they're a good person. If you can genuinely validate those things, their resistance just starts to melt away, and they become so much more open to your ideas.
All right, let's move to our final law for today, which is all about elevating our own perspective to make much, much better decisions. This is called adopting the long view and rising above the daily chaos.
Our brains are literally hardwired for the here and now. Like Greene says, it is in the animal part of your nature to be most impressed by what you can see and hear in the present. We get completely sucked in by the latest crisis, the newest trend, the loudest opinion. It's a kind of short-term thinking that keeps us trapped, constantly reacting and putting out fires.
The antidote to this trap is what he calls a far-sighted perspective. It's the ability to detach yourself from the heat of the moment, from the immediate drama, so you can see the bigger picture, the long-term consequences, the wider patterns. It's like being able to fly up in a helicopter to see the whole traffic jam, instead of just being stuck in your car, seeing only the bumper in front of you.
So how do we develop this perspective? Well, you have to work at it. First, you detach from the cloud of your immediate emotions. Just take a step back. Then, you look for the deeper roots of problems, not just the surface-level symptoms. A huge part of this is considering the second and third order consequences of your actions. It's about thinking like a chess player, not just this move, but the next 3 moves. And when you do all that, you can finally focus on your long-term goals and use them as a compass to guide you through all the short-term noise. This is how you stop being a pawn of circumstance and start becoming a strategist in your own life.
So the most crucial thing to take away from all this is that these aren't just interesting theories to know, they're skills to be practiced. The real value only comes when you start applying them. So I'll leave you with this question. What is one law you will practice observing this week? Just pick one. Will you try to increase your reaction time? Or maybe pay extra close attention to someone's nonverbal cues? What's one thing you'll start observing today?
You know, we've only just scratched the surface of this incredible book. We've talked about just a few of the 18 laws that Greene outlines. If any of this has sparked your interest and you want to go deeper, I highly, highly recommend reading The Laws of Human Nature. You can find a link for it in the description below. Thank you so much for joining me on The Explainer.